The slap echoed like a gunshot. For a moment, the entire store seemed to freeze. Shoppers paused mid-sentence, eyes wide in disbelief. One woman gasped so loudly her phone slipped from her hand and cracked against the white marble floor. At the center of the luxury boutique, surrounded by glittering handbags and glass cases, a sharply dressed black woman stood, her face still turned from the impact, hair slightly disheveled, but her eyes were steel, calm, unblinking. Across from her, veins bulging from his temple, the store manager's chest heaved with rage. His hand still hovered in the air like he hadn't realized what he'd just done. "Get out of my store!" he roared, voice dripping with disgust. "You don't belong here. Don't think for a second someone like you can afford even the dust on these shelves." Ikarindin turned toward the startled security guard. "Get her out, now!" But the guard hesitated, eyes flicking between the woman and the crowd. Something wasn't right. No one moved. That's when she slowly turned back to face him. Her voice was like velvet soaked in ice water. Calm, measured, and deadly. "Are you finished?" The manager's smug grin faltered. "You'll want to call your lawyer," she said, pulling a phone from her designer bag. "Because in about 5 minutes you're going to be escorted out of my store." The crowd murmured in confusion. Some even laughed nervously. "She's bluffing," someone whispered. "She's just trying to save face," said another. But the woman wasn't bluffing, and she didn't need to save face because she didn't just own the store, she owned the entire international brand. And this wasn't the first time someone had underestimated her, but it would be the last time he did. Let's go back to the beginning, to the moment when the store manager made the biggest mistake of his life. 2 days earlier, the grand boutique reopening, the grand reopening of Valent and West in Manhattan, was the talk of the fashion industry. Known for its exclusive high-end designs and celebrity clientele, the brand had just completed a multi-million-dollar renovation of its flagship store on Fifth Avenue. Everything gleamed, from the polished marble floors to the crystal chandeliers, hanging like frozen fireworks from the ceiling. Staff members in crisp designer uniforms stood in perfectly rehearsed poses. The air smelled of imported florals, soft leather, and money. At the front entrance, Paul Kramer, the store's general manager, walked briskly down the aisle, barking orders into his earpiece. "Move the handbag slightly to the left. No, you're the one who's left. And for the love of God, someone take that water bottle off the display." Paul had run the boutique for 3 years. Tall, sharp-jawed, and always wearing tailored suits with just a touch of arrogance, he treated the store like his personal kingdom. He liked control. He liked obedience. And most of all, he liked knowing who belonged and who didn't. He glanced over at a cluster of sales associates and whispered to his assistant, "Keep an eye on anyone unfamiliar. No loitering, no nonsense. You know how this crowd is." His assistant, a nervous young man named Jake, nodded quickly and scribbled something on his clipboard. Enter Maya James. At that moment, a woman stepped into the store unnoticed. She wore a beige power suit, simple yet elegant. Her heels clicked softly on the marble as she walked. No loud jewelry, no flashy name-brand labels. Just poise, purpose, confidence. This was Maya James, a tech entrepreneur turned silent partner in one of the most exclusive fashion empires on the planet. What no one in that store knew, not even the store manager, was that Maya had recently become the majority shareholder of Valent and West after acquiring the brand through her investment firm. The deal was kept private. For now, she wanted to see the business from the inside before making any announcements. Today, she was just a customer, walking into her own store, watching, and she saw everything. The first red flag Maya wandered near a display of limited edition handbags. As she reached out to touch one, a blonde saleswoman in stilettos appeared instantly at her side. "I'm sorry, these are for serious buyers only," she said sweetly, placing herself between Maya and the display. "That section is reserved." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Reserved for who?" The saleswoman looked her up and down. "VIP clients, influencers. You know." Maya glanced at the price tag. $14,800. "I'm aware. I was interested in buying it." The woman's smile froze. clothes. Of course, but maybe you'd like to try something from our Essentials line instead. It's in the back, past the clearance racks. Essentials line. Maya had never heard of that, mainly because it didn't exist. She nodded slowly. Thanks, I'll keep browsing. As she walked away, she caught a glimpse of the saleswoman rolling her eyes, then pulling out her phone to text someone. Paul notices her and assumes the worst. From the second-floor mezzanine, Paul Kramer spotted Maya near a rack of designer dresses. He narrowed his eyes. She wasn't holding anything. No shopping bags, no personal shopper, no appointment, just casually browsing. He clicked his earpiece. Suspicious customer near the Eleonora gowns. Keep an eye on her. Dark suit, mid-30s, alone. Copy, someone replied. Maya picked up a dress. Before she could hold it to the light, a young male employee rushed over. I'm sorry, that one's reserved for a private client. Please don't touch it. Maya looked him squarely in the eye. I'm just examining the fabric. Yes, but it's policy. It's not, he blinked. Excuse me? There is no such policy. I helped write the inventory manual 6 weeks ago. The employee stared, confused. Who are you? Before Maya could answer, Paul stormed down the stairs. The first confrontation, Paul reached Maya in 4 long strides. His tone was fake sweet, but his eyes were hard. Is there a problem here, ma'am? No problem, Maya replied calmly. Your staff just seems unfamiliar with your actual policies. Paul's expression tightened. Well, this is a private shopping event. If you don't have an invitation, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Maya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I don't need an invitation. Paul folded his arms. Ma'am, I'm being polite. Don't make this difficult. We have standards here. The word hung in the air like poison. Maya glanced around. The crowd had started to pay attention. Phones were out. A few customers were whispering. Paul leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but this is not your kind of place. So, unless you're here to clean the windows or deliver a package, that's when Maya pulled out her phone and opened her email. She didn't say a word, just held it up. Paul's eyes scanned the screen. Ownership, transfer agreement, Valent and West Holdings, primary signatory, Maya James effective date, August 28th. The color drained from his face, but instead of backing off, he made the biggest mistake of all. He reached for the phone and slapped it out of her hand, hard. It wasn't just a reaction, it was fury, pride, panic. A man realizing his throne had just been pulled out from under him. The phone hit the floor with a crack. The store fell silent, and Maya didn't flinch. She slowly picked up her phone, dusted it off, and looked him dead in the eye. You're going to regret that, she said quietly. Paul sneered. I don't think so. But he would. In less than 48 hours, Paul's face would be splashed across every major news outlet in the country as the man who tried to humiliate a billionaire in her own store, and Maya was just getting started. Later that day, damage control. Or, so he thought. After the confrontation, Paul tried to act as if nothing had happened. He sent Maya a half-hearted apology through a junior associate. We apologize for the misunderstanding earlier. Our staff didn't recognize you, but Maya didn't respond. Because this wasn't just about her. What she had witnessed went far beyond one man's ignorance. As she lingered in the store that day, quietly, discreetly, she saw dozens of tiny, cruel microaggressions. Black and brown customers were being shadowed by staff as they browsed. A Latina woman in designer heels was asked if she was here for the cleaning crew. A South Asian father and daughter are being told to try something more affordable when admiring a $4,000 jacket. The racism was embedded, not just in Paul, but in the culture he had cultivated at Valent and West's most prestigious location, and Maya knew this wasn't going to be fixed with an apology. Paul ramps up the hostility. The next morning, Paul called an emergency staff meeting. His tone was bitter, his pride wounded. There's been some confusion about management around here, he said, standing stiffly in front of the floor staff. Let me clear that up. I'm still the general manager, and until I'm told otherwise, by corporate, we do things my way. He shot a pointed glance at the young employee who had asked Maya who she was. Some of you embarrassed this store yesterday. That's not happening again. If you encounter someone who doesn't fit the profile of our clientele, notify security immediately. Understood? A few team members nodded reluctantly. Others looked down at their shoes, and one, a woman named Elena, the assistant floor manager, quietly tapped her phone to start recording. She had heard everything, and she knew this wasn't right. Maya returns, and this time, everyone's watching. That afternoon, Maya returned to the store, not in secret this time. She walked straight through the front doors, escorted by two high-level executives from Valent & West's corporate legal team. Behind her, a few bodyguards trailed discreetly, dressed like shoppers. Paul's face turned white when he saw her. He rushed to intercept, smiling awkwardly. Miss James," he stammered, "I had no idea you were returning today. We would have prepared something, a formal welcome." Maya held up a hand. "I'm not here for a welcome, Paul. I'm here for an audit." He blinked. "An audit? We'll be reviewing store operations, staff conduct, sales practices, client treatment, and your own managerial behavior." Paul swallowed. "I don't think that's necessary." "It is," said one of the executives sharply. "We've received several complaints in the past 24 hours, including video footage." Paul froze. Video footage? He looked around frantically. Who had filmed it? He didn't know that Elena had already sent her recording to corporate, including snippets of his "We do things my way" speech. It had also been anonymously leaked to TikTok and was blowing up. The internet reacts. Within hours, the story spread like wildfire. Store manager slaps black billionaire at her own flagship location. Luxury brand under fire for racist discrimination. She owns the store, and he tried to kick her out. Clips from Maya's calm confrontation went viral. Comment sections lit up with rage. The way she said, "Are you finished?" gave me chills. Paul better start looking for a new job in another galaxy. You never know who you're talking to. Respect is free. News outlets reached out for interviews. Celebrities tweeted their support. Activists started organizing protests outside the store. Maya said nothing, not a tweet, not a press release. She didn't need to. The truth was louder than anything she could have posted. Paul begins to crack. Inside the store, things unraveled quickly. Paul held emergency meetings trying to control the narrative. He blamed staff for miscommunication, insisted that Maya hadn't identified herself properly, and even suggested the video had been doctored. But no one was buying it. Customers canceled their appointments. Influencers who once bragged about shopping there now disavowed the brand. On Instagram, staff morale plummeted. Rumors swirled that Paul had been racist to others in the past, but until now, no one had the power to challenge him. Maya did, and everyone knew it. One last power play, and it goes horribly wrong. In a desperate move, Paul invited Maya to a private meeting in the back office. She agreed. Inside, he poured 2 glasses of sparkling water and forced a smile. "Look," he said, trying to sound reasonable, "I know we got off on the wrong foot. However, you need to understand that I've built this store from the ground up. We're profitable, prestigious. I've made this location #1 globally." Maya said nothing. "I know things got tense, but if we could smooth this over quietly, I'm willing to take responsibility internally. You understand, right?" Still, Maya said nothing. Paul leaned in, lowering his voice. "You don't want the board involved. They're not exactly known for backing outsiders, if you know what I mean." He smirked like he had just made a clever move, and that's when Maya stood. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She handed him a sealed envelope. Paul opened it, and his face fell. Inside was a termination letter, effective immediately, signed by the entire board of directors, including the former CEO, who had personally called Maya that morning to express his disgust with Paul's behavior. Paul's fall. In front of everyone, Maya stepped out of the office. Paul trailed behind her, pale and stunned. The staff and customers turned to look. One of the security guards stepped forward. "Ms. James?" he asked. "Would you like us to escort Mr. Kramer from the building?" Maya paused. Then, in a voice calm and clear, she said, "Yes, get him out of my store." Paul tried to protest, but the guard gently placed a hand on his arm. The crowd watched in silence. Then someone started clapping, and then another, and another, until the entire boutique erupted in applause as Paul Kramer was led out in disgrace, the same way he had tried to eject Maya days earlier. But Maya's plan wasn't just about revenge. She turned to the staff. "You deserve better leadership," she said. "This isn't about a viral video or a headline. This is about creating a culture where people are respected, no matter their skin color, their background, or the balance in their bank account." One of the younger employees wiped a tear from her cheek. Maya smiled softly. That starts today. 2 days later, the press event that changed everything. Valent and West had planned a quiet, elegant press event to announce its new executive leadership. What they got instead was a media firestorm. By the time Maya James stepped onto the stage at the company's Manhattan headquarters, over 100 journalists had packed the room. Cameras flashed, live streams buzzed, Twitter hashtags were trending worldwide. She owns it. Maya James is fired for racism. True. Paul Karma behind Maya stood the entire C-suite, and notably, Paul Kramer was not among them. She adjusted the microphone, her voice calm and composed. Let me begin by saying that I never intended to become the center of a media storm. But when you walk into a store you own, and someone tells you that you don't belong, that moment becomes about more than just business. It becomes about identity, about history, about who we choose to empower and who we choose to erase. The room fell utterly silent. I was humiliated, but not because I didn't belong. I was humiliated because this wasn't the first time, and I knew it wouldn't be the last, unless something changed. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. So I decided it would change, and it started with accountability. A twist no one saw coming. As Maya continued speaking, a reporter raised a hand. Ms. James, is it true the former store manager, Paul Kramer, has retained legal counsel and plans to sue the company for wrongful termination? Maya raised an eyebrow. She was expecting that question. He's welcome to try, she said smoothly, but the company has fully documented records of his conduct, including multiple discrimination complaints, private video recordings, and employee testimonies spanning over 2 years, the audience murmured. Another reporter chimed in. So, he's done this before? Maya nodded. Yes, and until now, no one in leadership has taken the complaints seriously. Why not? Someone asked from the back. Maya looked directly into the camera, because the people he discriminated against didn't look like the people in charge. Gasps. That line would be quoted on every major outlet within the hour. Paul's desperate stunt and his final downfall. Back at his apartment, Paul was watching the live stream with growing rage. He had already filmed a dramatic YouTube video of his own, calling himself a victim of cancel culture, claiming Maya had set him up and accusing her of using the race card to take control of the brand. But when he hit upload, the backlash was instant. Within minutes, his video was downvoted into oblivion. Former employees posted their own stories of abuse under Paul Kramer. Screenshots of racist text messages and emails allegedly sent by Paul surfaced on Reddit and were quickly verified. A black employee from 3 years ago, now a lawyer, publicly stated that she had filed an internal complaint which had been buried. There was no coming back. His PR firm dropped him. His LinkedIn disappeared. His name was officially scrubbed from Valent and West's company website. He wasn't just fired. He was finished. Maya's power move. Reclaiming the narrative at the end of the press conference, a journalist asked Maya the question everyone had been waiting for. Why didn't you speak out sooner? Maya smiled, not with smugness, but with meaning, because I wanted the world to see what happens when someone who looks like me walks into a room of power and doesn't apologize for it. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet box. This, she said, opening it to reveal a custom-designed brooch shaped like a black phoenix rising from fire, will be our new brand symbol. It stands for rebirth, reinvention, and rising after being underestimated. Thunderous applause filled the room. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She didn't gloat. She stood there, unshaken, elegant, unapologetically powerful, and owned it. Back at the store, everything had changed. That same day, Maya returned to the boutique, but this time, not as a silent observer. She walked in through the front entrance, and the same staff that once questioned her now greeted her with smiles and respectful nods. The toxic air was gone. Elena, the assistant floor manager who had filmed Paul's speech, stepped forward nervously. Ms. James, I hope I didn't overstep. Maya touched her arm gently. You saved this store, she said. You saved people. Elena blinked, eyes glistening. Thank you. Maya turned to the rest of the team. We're not just changing the leadership. We're changing everything, from hiring and training to promotions and pay equity. Every store in this company will be a place of excellence, not exclusion. And then Then she said something no one expected. "Starting next month, I'll be working here, 1 day a week, on the floor, with all of you." Shocked silence. "Wait, what?" one of the employees whispered. "Like, as a regular associate?" Maya nodded. "Exactly like that. That's the only way to build a culture from the ground up, by being part of it." Cheers broke out. Some clapped, some laughed, a few cried, and one customer walking past said aloud, "That's the kind of owner the world needs." It was early. The boutique wasn't even open yet. Maya stood alone in the center of the store, dressed in simple black slacks and a button-down shirt, the new staff uniform she'd helped design herself. No bodyguards, no entourage, no announcement, just her. She strolled through the store, her fingers grazing the fabrics, checking the details on the displays and nodding in quiet approval. This was her vision now. Not just the brand, but the energy, the people, the integrity of it all, and it was working. Sales were already rising. Press coverage had shifted from scandal to celebration. Job applications had tripled, but Maya wasn't chasing headlines. She was building a legacy. An unexpected visitor just before the doors opened, Maya heard the soft chime of the back entrance. She turned, and there he was, Paul Kramer. No suit, no power. Just a man in jeans and a wrinkled button-up, holding an envelope in his trembling hands. The security team had paused him at the back entrance, but Maya raised a hand to let him pass. The staff looked uneasy, but she gave them a slight nod. "Give us the room," she said quietly. The employees filed out one by one, watching through the glass. Paul stepped forward, looking like a shadow of the man he once was. I came to say I'm sorry," he said, voice barely above a whisper. Maya didn't move. She didn't speak. He held out the envelope. "It's everything I've written in the last week. Apologies, explanations. I don't expect forgiveness, but you deserved better. From all of us." Silence hung between them. Paul's eyes were red. "You didn't just take my job. You exposed who I really am, and I hate who that is." Maya finally spoke. "I didn't take anything from you, Paul," she said, her voice even. "You gave it away, the moment you chose ego over empathy." He looked down, ashamed. I built this place." "No," she corrected. "You built a cage. I'm building a home." Paul swallowed hard. "You're going to do amazing things here." "I already am," she said. He turned to leave, but paused. "Thank you for not pressing charges." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Don't mistake mercy for weakness. I didn't press charges for myself. I did it for the people watching." Paul nodded and walked out for the last time. The grand reopening, a different kind of crowd. A few days later, Valent and West held its real reopening, but it wasn't like the last one. This time, there were no velvet ropes, no bouncers deciding who was worthy of entering. People from every background filled the store, moms with strollers, couples hand in hand, young girls wide-eyed in awe, and older women trying on scarves with help from staff who smiled as if they genuinely cared. Elena greeted guests with a glowing smile, now wearing a name tag that read Elena Rivera, Assistant Manager, Culture and Inclusion. Maya floated through the store, working the floor as promised, suggesting styles, sharing laughs, learning names. A teenage girl with dark skin and braids approached her shyly. "You're her, right?" she asked. "The woman from the video?" Maya smiled. "Depends who you ask." The girl giggled. "Can I hug you?" Maya nodded. They embraced. "You changed everything," the girl whispered. Maya pulled back, her eyes glistening. "No, we did." Final scene, a message for everyone, as the store. Lights dimmed that evening. Maya sat near the front window watching the city glow outside. A small camera crew from a local documentary series was filming her final thoughts for a special feature. The interviewer leaned in. "If you could say one thing to every person who's ever been judged, overlooked, or pushed aside because of who they are, what would it be?" Maya took a deep breath, then said, "Power doesn't always come with a title. Sometimes it walks in quietly, in heels, with receipts." She looked into the lens. "To anyone who's ever been told you don't belong, know this: they're not afraid of your presence. They're afraid of your potential." The screen faded to black. The end. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. Have you ever been underestimated? Let's talk.